As you're probably aware, I cut ties with Colin a bit ago, which is why he's no longer on any of my streams, and it really boiled down to him being unable to take criticism and pretending to be suicidal to avoid criticism. The evidence for this won't take very long to go over, and if you wish to pause the video to look at the screenshots in full, feel free to do so. Links will also be in the description if you want to look at the evidence in isolation so you can reference it to others. It starts with Colin responding to someone requesting basic moderation in Marvel Rivals because they saw a username called Jew Genocide. It seemed like he had a problem with the tweet, so I decided to push back because that's obviously ridiculous to judge someone for. I decided to criticize Colin on this from a couple of angles, one of which being that this would reflect poorly on him and could give ammo to people who already want to falsely tarnish his image. The other being that making fun of genocide isn't appropriate for a Marvel superhero game for kids, and expecting basic moderation for this is completely reasonable. Colin proceeds to say that his problem is that this person decided to leave a Marvel Rivals match because of the Jew Genocide name, despite the Twitter user in question being Jewish. He proceeded to display a blatant lack of empathy and said that he doesn't care and that leaving the game because the genocide of their people was made fun of makes them a pussy. He proceeds to downplay the idea that the Holocaust being made fun of could be offensive by showing that World War II ended in 1945, even though anti-Semitism didn't die in 1945. I tell him that the effects this has on their family members would obviously extend to their children as well, who would have to hear of such horrific stories involving their family. He then proceeded to spam the end date of World War II without making any kind of argument against what I said. He continues to make non-arguments against what we're saying when this is clearly bothering us. We're trying to give him honest criticism, and he's not listening. And while I found his overall mindset immature and wished he would grow moving forward, it wasn't enough for me to decide I can't be friends with this person. Because at least in the past, it seemed like he was willing to accept criticism, even if he was so prone to making idiotic decisions in the heat of conflict.
Tell me what's the harmless racist joke right now. Tell me one.
The shit that I said. My example.
One.
I just said it. What's
Tell
so
me.
bad about? What's so bad about? I just said it. The shit
Say
that
it.
I said. The watermelon
Say it again.
shit. Oh my
Say it
fucking
again.
god.
Say it again.
Are,
Say it
are you
again.
stupid? Are you
Say it
stupid?
again. Say it
The
again.
watermelon shit. Let me say it louder.
Say it.
The watermelon shit. Let me say it 4 more times. Watermelon, watermelon, melon, melon, watermelon. WATERMELON. Watermelon.
We're not gonna say the joke. Say the joke. Say the joke right now. Say it. Say a joke.
You're black
Say a
and you eat
harmless
watermelon.
joke. Say
You're
watermelon.
black and you eat watermelon. I mean, if
Okay.
I could probably think of something clever.
Colin has this tendency to throw his opinions in a provocative manner, and while some of this can be in light fun, at other times, this can create serious problems and allegations against him. Like what we saw in this clip right here, he seems to have much less of a lid on what he calls edgy humor, and while I think it's really immature of him, I was also hoping he'd grow and mature over time, at least partially because of input from the company he keeps. That's represented by the pushback you're seeing from me in these messages, but as you can clearly tell, he seemed to only ignore criticism because he doesn't want to hear it. It's one thing to be immature and ignorant, but it's a whole nother thing to block out criticism entirely because you're unwilling to hear it. Comic Legend even tells him to have some tact when we're clearly annoyed with him, and he proceeds to ignore this entirely. Comic Legend was so confused and didn't understand the behavior, so he wanted to check on Colin's mental state to see how this would explain how he's behaving right now. He spams no to us in the chat when asked if he's okay. He proceeds to claim that he wants to kill himself and we're all left shocked by this. I specifically told him this isn't funny in the event this is some kind of joke of his. So he must have known that we clearly had a problem with this from the start. He then proceeds to send a fake YouTube login and says first come first serve. We then start a Discord call with him because we're worried that he could end up taking his life. He then joins the call to laugh at us for taking the situation seriously, despite him making an active effort to make us believe him.
Fiction.
How the fuck do you guys know I'm not fucking trolling? Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Wait, you were not high?
No, I'm trolling. Jesus Christ, dude.
Oh my fucking god. I'm not dealing with this. Someone else can fucking...
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm fucking done.
Alright, goodbye. I just wanted.
No one's laughing.
Get out of here.
I
Go
was
away.
just fucking with you guys.
I don't think anyone wants to hear your voice now. You can actually fucking leave.
After he leaves, I tell him this isn't funny and everyone here is sick of him. I also told him that he made other people worried about this, such as TK, who sent Colin's tweet that started all of this in a separate group chat that had 10 people in it. I had to tell them all not to criticize Colin because I believed he was considering taking his life. He proceeds to justify his actions and give an insincere and backhanded apology for it. And then when I brought up other situations I was dealing with, one of which I had to make a video on because of how bad it was getting, my goal was to get him to understand the additional stress he was putting me on. I brought up to him that one of these situations involved a friend of mine being harassed, which nearly resulted in an actual suicide. He tells me I shouldn't consider that my problem, as if I shouldn't stand up for my friend in that situation. And he elaborates by asking why that would be put onto me if he actually did take his life. I don't know, Colin. If you don't have people defending you when you're being harassed and thinking of suicide, it might just be an obligation for your friends who know of this to support you instead of, leaving you behind. Just a thought. He then tries to justify it by saying that I only got stressed for 10 minutes, therefore it's okay for him to suicide bait to avoid criticism, with no sincere apology given. It eventually circled back to us arguing about the Marvel Rivals nickname, which you can see in this full argument he had with Kronos, where he did a terrible job and he made himself look like a complete moron.
You know what pisses me off?
Yo.
Oh my god. What's up, Colin?
Alright. I just want to get this shit over with. I'm in another call, that's why I'm not joining the fucking VC. But what's it called? What I'm basically saying with the whole, you're a pussy thing, with the context of this, is literally, this dude saw a name, right? And he's so deeply offended by it, that he said, now I'm gonna ruin the fun of 5 other people's games, or 4 other people technically, because there's it doesn't matter. Just because this guy hurt my feelings, wah. So I'm gonna ruin these people's fun for the next 10 to 20 minutes, however long the game lasts, just because of that. I'm not saying that you losing the game is you taking it that deep. It's just oh, you're gonna ruin, like people play games to unwind, to have fun, right? We all do that, right? So it's why are you gonna go and want to ruin those other people's fun for that certain amount of time? What the fuck? Wait, I'm not done. That's not downplaying trauma. That's not what I'm saying. Which you need to get through your head.
How can you say in the same sentence, people go to play games to unwind, and then say you shouldn't feel that deeply about someone making fun of the genocide of your people?
That's not what I just said.
You just said the person shouldn't leave the match just because they got offended, and you're calling them a pussy for it, that someone made fun of the genocide of their people.
Okay. I'm gonna repeat this again because you just didn't listen.
What I said, god, he literally pulled a run it back.
Yeah, I do need to run it back because you're not listening. What?
Don't fucking say that. You're making yourself sound fucking worse. Oh my god.
Okay, sure. You can say that. At the end of the day, this is literally, again, feelings versus feelings. What I said was, if you are going to, you are acting like a pussy if you saw a name that probably some fucking teenager made, just joking around. It's oh, that brought up trauma, right? Or whatever. It's if someone brought up fucking white genocide or some shit. I said this earlier. If someone brought up
trauma or whatever.
I'm not done.
Or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. Brought up trauma or whatever. It's not that serious.
Yeah,
only
whatever.
6 million people died. It's not that deep.
It's like a chocolate.
Why
bar.
are you acting like that? What the fuck are you? I'm sorry. You gotta stop. You're overly gassed. I'm sorry, but there's no fucking way you're treating this the equivalent. Oh my god, the way you're fucking framing this is all these 6 billion people died. It's what the fuck? Realistically, how many fucking Jewish people do you think is actually on their knees crying over hearing the Holocaust mentioned or someone making a joke about it? Be realistic. You think people do that with 9/11?
I had to deal with the Holocaust, by the way. Just to let you know.
What?
I literally have a grandfather.
I'm sorry. Why are you now overplaying the reaction? They're only
in my family. Just to let you know, by the way. Just to let you know.
Their only reaction to seeing the name was quitting a match. Big fucking deal. They quit a match. Who gives a shit?
Big fucking deal, right? I'm glad you're starting to follow. What I'm saying is,
they quit a match. Who cares?
The people who are just trying to have fun and that you just ruined it for the next 10 to 20 minutes.
Okay. Their fun is more important than making fun of
why is it more
the
important?
genocide of 6 million people?
Why is it more or less important? Explain it.
Why is 4 random people's
Don't
fun
repeat the question.
more important than your own feelings?
Don't repeat the. Don't repeat the.
Do I need to explain why 4
Yes,
random
go
people's
ahead,
fun
go
is
ahead.
not as important
I'd
as
love
your
to-
own feelings?
No, I actually would love to see you try and actually objectively go at my argument here. Please, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. So if you are an individual, correct?
Yeah.
The most important things to you should be yourself. It could also be your significant other if you have
mental health.
your mental
Right.
health,
I
of course.
agree. Yeah, I'm
So
glad
so
we're
you would place that you would place that above some random 4 fuckers who you don't know winning in the League of Legends game or whatever.
Right. I'm glad you're following. So, right. So what you just did is you just ruined the fun. You were being a pussy because someone made you go wham wham for a second. Like, unironic that you didn't objectively go at anything. You just went back to the feelings versus feelings thing. There's nothing objective about that. It's subjective.
I objectively explained why people put their own feelings above the feelings of 4 random people.
Feelings are inherently subjective, Kronos. What are you
Earth
talking about? You're retarded. Like, what?
You realize that objectively people place their own feelings or the feelings of people they know above the feelings of random people.
And
you
you
are
can
aware that is a fact, right?
I'm very aware of that, and I'm also aware that in doing so, you can be being a pussy.
It's being a pussy to place
Kronos.
your own feelings above the feelings of 4 random people. What is that? What is that standard, my guy?
Okay, Kronos. So Kronos. So let's put your standard in actual like practice here. Let's say I work in a McDonald's and a group of 4
You're
dudes.
saying the lives of billion strangers are more important than my loved ones.
I'm actually trying to get this over with.
Feelings versus feelings, my guys.
Let's say a group of 5 people walk into a McDonald's and they get like they share like a 30-piece McNugget with each other or whatever, right?
This debate is
one of the dudes walks in. One of the dudes out of the 6 other people walks in and they have a shirt on that says Jew genocide. Would it be okay for you to now fucking rub your nuts on some of their nuggets because your personal feelings got upset?
What the fuck are you? What is that whack ass comparison, my guy?
Oh my god!
You just compared someone removing themselves from a situation where they're uncomfortable to actively doing something like that is, first of all, a crime because that'd be indecent exposure, and second of all, you are wildly blowing the reaction out of proportion. If you were to be if you were to actually compare it, it would be like someone walking in with a shirt that said, if you have a group of 6 people and one of them has a shirt that says Jew genocide, it'd be the equivalent of you getting up and just leaving without paying for anything. And I would say, yes, that is okay for you to just leave without paying for anything if one of the people you're with decided to wear a shirt saying Jew genocide.
How are you gonna leave without paying for it? That's such a dumb what?
You work there?
What are you talking about?
Wait, but if you work there, you're getting paid to be there, and what you're doing, if you were to put your nuts on their thing, that would be a crime. What? In fact, you could actually get that person removed if they were. You could literally get that person thrown out if they were a shirt saying Jew genocide.
You know what?
You can legally get that person thrown out.
No,
do you know that?
Okay. Let me do this then. Let me.
Wait, Kronos, I want to ask you something, and this is actually really funny. So you know what's really funny about this whole thing about the video game stuff?
No, wait. You can actually. You know what's funny, Liam? You can refuse them service. You can refuse them service.
You know what's funny? Like rubbing your nuts on someone's food is objectively like contaminating it versus fucking having fun in a video game, which in itself is subjective anyway, even if someone leaves.
That's great. Can I rephrase, please?
Please do, because that was a fucking
you can try again.
argument.
Okay, so again, same situation, and it's just okay. You don't serve the other 5 people because that one dude walked in with that shirt. Like, is that not you just being a pussy and ruining the shit for 5 other people just because of one person?
No.
Okay, why?
What do you mean, why? Why is it pussy? Why is it pussy to refuse service to someone?
Why are you ruining?
Because they're wearing it.
Dude, if the business that I'm working for doesn't respect my
like, once
personal
again,
didn't even
comfort,
answer.
once again, this comparison fails. This comparison fails because you are comparing you having to be there and look at that person to someone wanting to remove themselves from the situation. Like, those are the exact opposite of each
What
other.
are you talking about? No, they're not, because you removing yourself from said situation impacts other people. What are you not getting about this?
Also,
if you want to make it actually accurate, it would be like you seeing someone wear a shirt that says Jew genocide, and then you deciding to leave your job and then go to the back and have someone else take your place to serve them. That's way more accurate than whatever the fuck argument you just tried to make. And I would not say that makes you a pussy.
What did you say?
Well, also another thing.
I don't
like,
care,
people are
Liam.
paying
Stop
for
talking.
service.
I asked him to repeat what he said.
So, like, if a group of people walked in, right, and one of them had a shirt that says Jew genocide, and I was uncomfortable serving that person, or if anyone's uncomfortable serving that person, and they decided to head to the back so they wouldn't have to serve that person, and then switch places with someone else, I would not say that makes
That's
them a
not
pussy.
how that works. That's not even how the comparison works. Again, you just don't understand what I'm saying.
Your comparison doesn't work either, my guy. You're comparing the fact that someone wants to leave a match to someone that has to stay there.
Yeah, like
Kronos,
one is literally keeping yourself afloat with money.
Stop talking.
And also, this is completely ignoring the monetary incentive that one of these is a job and the other one is a
literally.
game.
That is such a fucking stupid comparison.
And
even in your job, they will literally account for your personal comfort. That is like a fucking part of the law. So it's like even funnier.
Okay, bro, you don't. It's literally you're getting into the nitty gritty details of the comparison.
The nitty gritty detail.
Oh my god, bro.
I'm just laying out
the nitty gritty details of why my comparison is stupid. Okay, but
you're literally just nitpicking at fucking like the aspects of working a job or whatever. When I'm just laying out.
You're the one that compared it to working a job. You compared a game to working a job. That was a decision you made.
I'm not gonna.
You didn't have to make that decision.
Kronos, I'm not gonna stay here if you don't let me finish the sentence, and if you don't just.
Well,
listen.
goodbye then. Have a nice day. Like, what the fuck?
Okay.
Like, we give a shit.
Alright, cool.
After those ridiculous arguments, I really couldn't handle it anymore and just removed him after he left. He eventually proceeded to go to a Discord server that I'm not in, which has over 130 people in there, most of which I don't know or trust, and proceeded to leak private DMs of us arguing about the subject afterwards, which ultimately doesn't share anything different from what we already know. The only thing it really shows us is that I'm not in any mood to voice chat with him, for very obvious reasons. I only found out about this leak through someone who wasn't in the group chat or involved in the situation, and someone Colin said he didn't even know was in the server. Clearly, Colin didn't care about the privacy of myself and others. He had no regard for random people grabbing those DMs and potentially spreading it to others, or leaking it publicly if they were in the mood. So because I wasn't interested in dealing with a messy game of telephone and random leaks about the situation, I decided to make a full thread with the evidence I just showed earlier, which I'll link in the description. And it's funny because beforehand, I specifically said that I will not reveal the details of why I cut ties with Colin, unless Colin breaches privacy on the matter, and he proceeds to breach privacy on the matter. In response to this, he proceeds to leak the DMs on his Twitter as if this helps his case at all, when reading the DMs only reaffirms what I already showed in my thread. This is also linked in the description if you want to check for yourself. Now, I've heard Colin has justified his behavior by claiming he was sleep deprived.
Arguing with me on this stance, and I was awake for around 24 hours at the time trying to fix my sleep schedule, so I was awake for around 24 hours when this all started, so I was kind of out of it, and funny enough, one of the symptoms of lack of sleep is actually impaired judgment, which is pretty funny with everything I'm about to explain, but whatever.
Last I checked, sleep deprivation doesn't make you avoid criticism by pretending to be suicidal. It's being morally bankrupt that does. So far, it's not looking great for Colin. He thinks it's bad for someone to leave a video game when someone makes fun of the genocide of their people, all because they could lose a match. He thinks it's unreasonable for Jewish people to be upset over the Holocaust by removing themselves from situations that mock the Holocaust, all because World War II ended in 1945. And instead of responding to criticism and allowing his mind to be changed, he tries to anger his friends and pretend to be suicidal. He claims that he didn't think we would actually take it that seriously, but the messages earlier proved that we believed he was actually considering suicide, and he proceeded anyway. But of course, Colin couldn't help himself and had to make himself even worse. This event started off with Jack Kentner making fun of the fact that Colin is begging his fanbase to pay him $7,000 for a car that he couldn't financially sustain. Keep in mind that Colin doesn't actually need this car for work because YouTube is his source of income, so this isn't a necessity for him nor a contributor to his work, and is more so just a privilege for him. So this resulted in a running joke where people on Twitter would tell Colin to get a job. It started hashtag ColinGetAJob, and the stream of memes it created is honestly hilarious, so I'm just gonna link the hashtag in the description too. I will also link Jack Kentner's video on the matter that talks about the car situation itself in more detail, and why it's really stupid to send Colin money in this situation. On that same community post, he's cool with mocking the criticism towards him that he's suicide baited to avoid criticism, which goes to show that he isn't actually sorry despite insisting he was. The get a job memes on Colin kept spreading and spreading, even his own Discord server was making fun of him for it, and it spawned many arguments with his own fans, which led to some very revealing things about him. Someone alleged that Colin said he would rape Sydney Sweeney, and his response to that was that if he ever did say something like this and it was taken seriously, then this person's a moron, because apparently it's stupid to call out disgusting comments like this about people. What this communicated to me at the time is that, at least on a moral level, Colin supports sexually harassing actresses by saying he'd rape them. He publicly tells people if that they hear comments like this and take that seriously, they're the idiots here. He also tried to defend himself on Twitter by saying it's private and that they're jokes, so it's possible that he might have a code against public remarks like this but is cool with it in private, which means that while he may not support sexual harassment, he definitely supports disgusting comments about people as long as they're not seen. Not like that's a glowing distinction either. Now I may be a little crazy here, but I don't think many people would be comfortable with others talking about raping them behind closed doors, jokes or not. Because if you were to say that kind of stuff to their face, that qualifies as sexual harassment. And seeing that he's not denying the accusation for having said those things, he seems totally okay with letting the world know that he makes those kinds of comments and remains proud of it. Can you imagine for a second if Colin were to make fun of the death of a family member, and his response to being caught for that was, well, it was in private and it was a joke, so it's okay for me to do that? I really don't think that's gonna fly with most people. Now at this point, there was so much we were making fun of Colin for, and with each new low Colin would reach, the next never surprised us. Though, I'm going to discuss a part of this where I actually did make a mistake and step too far. One of Colin's former close friends, the Witness, decided to take advantage of the fact that there was a massive session where Colin was being clowned on, even by his own server. He decided to fabricate a story where Colin was drunk and dropped his cat over and over again, and accidentally killed it. We were hesitant to believe him at first because he has been caught lying many times in the past, specifically about what he does for a living and how accomplished he actually is. He was also an alleged felon, though he shared documents indicating that he wasn't actually convicted. We specifically required video evidence for that reason and not just a screenshot. On one hand, we didn't want to accept screenshot evidence because we don't fully trust this guy's word alone. On the other hand, as many of you likely know, the Witness was someone who was close to Colin for years, and Colin was willing to let him crash at his place before New York Comic-Con, so it was highly probable that he would have access to some damning information about Colin. I specifically asked him to screen share and screen record that specific DM and click on the profile as a means of verification, and he did exactly that to convince people that the DM was real, which facilitated our belief in the story. But further analysis of the video and the narrative resulted in us spotting errors, some of which we gave Colin the chance to outline in a voice call with the Witness, and some of which we found on our own as we were growing more skeptical. So it became more apparent that the Witness falsified evidence to appear real, likely to play on the fact that we were already clowning on Colin for the other things he did. I corrected the narrative and apologized for sharing this. However, before we even had the conversation with Colin to prove that the Witness lied, Colin threatened to leak my face for talking about this. And he ended up posting several images of my face on Twitter out of spite, and pinged every fan on his server with my face. He didn't take it down until after I realized the evidence was falsified, and took it down on my end, then asked him to take down the images of my face now that this issue was cleared. And even then, I had to reach out to Stir, who happened to still be a mod on a server, to delete any messages that still had my face, including the original ping Colin made to a server, since it still shows the images despite the tweet being deleted. And he had to make a server announcement to tell Colin's fans to stop sharing my face, and to delete it off their devices. But thanks to Colin, I can't be sure my privacy was kept. In the past, I've asked him not to share my face, and this is a form of doxing. You cannot violate the privacy of someone's face, It's not that I'm ashamed of how I look or anything, but I try to keep my face as private as possible to separate my personal identity from my online identity. The reason doxing is so dangerous is because leaks of personal information only increase the means people have to endanger you or your family, especially when you're bound to have a lot of people who hate you on the internet and you're more exposed to vitriolic and unhinged people. It only takes one person to be obsessive enough about each and every detail about me to possibly stalk me and get even more information about myself out there, and incite dangerous activity that could endanger me or my family. So even if I apparently lied about the cat story, that doesn't justify endangering the safety of my family. But what's even worse is that I didn't lie about the cat story. I just believed it because the evidence appeared to be real at the time. And as I was shown more and more red flags of said evidence, I dropped it and apologized for speaking on it. The narrative was shut down. That's not the actions of a liar. The true actions of a liar would be someone who claims to respect your privacy, but ends up doxing you over a misunderstanding. That right there is inexcusable, and what really pushed me to go through with making a video on him, because if you trust Colin, especially with anything private, he will find a way to use it against you in the future if he eventually doesn't like you. He decided to save images of my face despite no longer being friends with me, and use them to dox me just because I believed false evidence that appeared to be real. This is the kind of person that Colin is. If he doesn't like you, he'll fish for a justification to attempt to do something horrendous to you. And if there's anything in particular I've been blind to as a product of being friends with him, let me know, because there's a chance that I wrongfully took his side on some things out of some misplaced trust. He seemed to think that the situation would allow him to get away with leaking my face, but it honestly just backfired on him. Not only did his credibility tank and more people believe the cat story off that basis alone, considering doxing isn't the actions of an innocent person, but his own fans in his own server called him out for it. And I imagine a similar yet larger scale blowback will be caused by this. And I really don't care if this eats into Colin's income on YouTube, because it's about time that Colin gets a job.